Welcome to the I Will Never Forgive Your Ass podcast. Yeah, well, forgive you. Yeah. I should have called it I Will Never Forgive Your Ass. I retroactively regret making that decision. Well, as you'll be able to see, there is no feedback episode because there just wasn't much. I think it's going to end up, once I edit it down, probably be less than an hour, maybe a little bit over an hour. There won't be much there. So there's no reason to do that separate videos. Once I got to a 3.5 hour long podcast, I wanted to split it up, but now there just hasn't been as many comments lately, so now we've shrunk back down. I think people are afraid of the long episodes, so they're not talking as much. So that's coming up next. I've already recorded that. Once I recorded it, that's how I know how long it was. I was like, yeah, there's no point in making this 2 episodes. One problem with that was I realized at the end I didn't want to do an F-bomb specifically for that. I was going to save it for the podcast, but now that I'm going to cram that in here, it's going to make the F-bomb's going to be way longer than this. So maybe I'll use it early in the podcast. So, to compensate. Because I don't think it'd be fair to make it, I don't remember what the numbers were people predicted. But I don't think it'd be fair to have it be 2.5 hours into the podcast. That'd be stupid. But anyway, this is the promotion part of the podcast, so let's go and do that. Tier 3 is awesome. It supports the podcast. Though there's a hidden podcast episode there. You probably know that already. I don't think you're jumping in. There may be people jump in. If this is your first podcast you've listened to, some people don't want to go back to the beginning. I didn't do that with the Black Guy Tips. I listened to current episodes. I didn't go back to their first episodes. It turned out it took them 3 tries to record their very first podcast episode. I don't know how they had the wherewithal to keep going with it. The first time, they didn't capture audio. They had talked for 2 hours and didn't capture any audio. The second time, the file got corrupted or something. Or there was background noise or some problem. It's the third time, and they did this over the course of 2 days. They talked for 9 hours and ended up with a 2-hour podcast. That was just the first one. It's if everyone's like this, screw this, right? But it ended up working out. Mine went a lot more smooth. Of course, I leaned on their experience. But anyway, there's an extra podcast episode over there. So if you didn't know that, you know that now. That's on Tier 3. And also that just supports the podcast. And there's a special podcast-related video I do every month. I need to get on that. It's probably going to be about the history of manga and stuff like that. So I actually need to get on that as well. So, yeah, that's my promotion. Let's keep it short and let's go ahead and hand off to the feedback, which strap in. It's going to be an hour. Now, think about this, though. If you normally don't watch that video, I know some of you don't. You just watch the podcast. You can skip ahead because what I do is I put, you'll see the text. As you scroll, you'll see a text that has a person's name, okay? Once it runs out of names, that means we're back, we're done with the feedback, and then we can get back into the podcast. So if you just want to skip, scroll ahead, check about an hour from now. If you still see names, keep going forward. Or if you put in a comment, scroll to your name, listen to that part of it, and then skip everybody else's if that's what you want to do, and then get to the end. So that you can skip ahead if you want to. But the rest of you, watch this podcast, listen to this podcast as God intended, which is in chronological order. Even though I recorded it out of order. Alright, so let's go and get the feedback, and then when we come back, I'll talk about the anime episode highlight. Alright, here we go with I Will Never Forgive You podcast, episode 15. And I'm not sure if there's going to be 1 or 2 videos yet, because here's, last time it was 1 hour for the feedback, and then an hour and 20 minutes for the actual podcast. My thing is, if the total number is going to be less than 2.5 hours, 3 hours maybe, I'm just going to combine them again. There's no reason to have them as separate videos. Because the questions have been getting less as we move along, right? So, but we'll see how long this takes. Sometimes one question I can answer for 20 minutes. I just did that with some feedback on the One Piece episodes. I talked for 20 minutes. It was the first 2 sentences of the comment. So, we just never know how long it's going to take. So I have no idea. But we'll see. That's for future me to worry about. Present me is going to start answering questions from the feedback episode. First up is Andy. We'll also say I'm pretty sure the One Piece also started out week to week, like you. So that could be a reason why it wasn't as good in the beginning. They were both a part of the Shonen Jump programming is the reason even I can recognize Oda as the greatest for what he has accomplished and what he has turned to the week to week freestyle writing into. By the way, I like it's like even I. In other words, you are a self-admitted hater. Anybody says even I. So for instance, I'm an Indianapolis Colts fan because first moved to North Carolina, they didn't have a team, and Dad had served near Baltimore for a long time, so he was a Baltimore Colts fan. Then they moved to Indianapolis, and he just kind of kept rooting for them. And we tend to follow what our father does, right? If we don't have another option. And when I first moved here, I didn't have another option. Anyway, so being a Colts fan, I can say even I can admit that Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars, a division rival of the Colts, is a decent quarterback. Even I can admit that, right? So what you're doing is you're qualifying. He's so good that even a certified gold-plated hater has to admit he's good. That's what you're saying. Even you, a certified hater, gold-plated hater, has to admit that this writer of One Piece is good. Well, here's the thing. It's like I've said. You seem, Andy, not you. I'm talking to Andy right now. Andy seems to be like he cares about plot more than characters, right? Oh, One Piece is about characters more than plot. Although, man, it's plot heavy. Like I said, it's always a spectrum. Oda would probably, I would say, be 70% characters, 30% plot. And I think Andy probably likes people to be 20% characters, 80% plot. And plot doesn't just mean the actual sequence of events that happens, but also the world building. You know, he wants the world building to be really strong, the magic system to be really strong, and explained. You know, I don't think Andy would like the Harry Potter magic system, which doesn't really get explained. You know, we just wave a wand and say a word. Unless they don't do that, right? So, which sometimes happens. But it's never defined. People could argue the more you define the magic system, the less interesting it is. Probably true. You know, I mean, you read The Magician sometimes, as the TV series is based on, but read their actual books. I think it's probably true. You don't want to know all the details. Edit. Apparently One Piece has been week to week until 2024. That's super impressive. I'm blown away by that. I definitely have to get back to watching One Piece in the future. I don't think you do have to get back to it. You prefer plot-centric stories, right? So knowing that from what I've watched, what are some other plot-heavy series? You would probably like Jujutsu Kaisen. You know, now I think he has seen it because he's talked about how that rips off Naruto or some shit, you know. So maybe you wouldn't like it, I don't know. But that's another one that's kind of like plot-heavy, characters come second. I'm starting some new anime. I bet you might like Seven Deadly Sins. Have you ever tried Seven Deadly Sins? That is pretty plot heavy. There's a lot of world building, a lot of magic system stuff. It's 4 seasons. Each season is 24 episodes, so you know, not a massive time commitment. 96 episodes, I think, and then there's like a sequel series and shit. No filler, just all pure story. You should try that because why would you go back to something you know you're not gonna like? You know, because you've asked me a bunch. This has come up repeatedly with Andy. He's asked me to do it. Do I think you should get back in One Piece? I said no, and I explained then, and I'm saying the same thing now. It's character heavy, not plot heavy, which is probably why you weren't into it in the first place. So it's like if you like chicken but you don't particularly like beef, you're not going to enjoy, you know, McDonald's as much as you enjoy Chick-fil-A or Smithfield's. Smithfield's, if you don't know, is an American place that specializes in chicken. Zaxby's is another one, right? So if you like chicken, you could eat at McDonald's and get their chicken sandwich, but it's going to be a mediocre chicken sandwich because they don't specialize in that. Zaxby's, Smithfield's, they specialize in chicken, so you should go there, right? You know, this is kind of what we're saying here. You could choke down a McDonald's chicken sandwich. Why not go to an expert? Go to somebody that specializes in it. That's what we're saying here. So why would you go back to it? You know, there's plenty of things that are super popular that I don't like. Okay, I was looking up longest running TV series. And there's some shit that's been around for like 70 years, but that's shit like, you know, the Tonight Show. That's not what I'm talking about. Live action. Fictional, you know, because like Survivor's been around for 25 years. Non-reality show, live action, fiction. The longest one I can find is NCIS. which is a procedural, has been going on for 22 years. It's a procedural series. Okay? 22 effing years. This shit has been on the air. People like this. Clearly, people like this. They like this more than they've ever liked it. Are there any cast members? Like, I actually need to look up. God, can you imagine what their IMDb looks like? 22 years? You've got to be shitting me. And it's been renewed for another season. It started in 2003, man. Okay, looking up there, they've had 491 episodes. You'd think it would be more than that even. Supernatural had over 300 episodes and it only went 15 seasons. All right, looking at this cast. What do you think the number is before I look at this? 491 total episodes. What do you think the number is of the actor who's been in the most episodes? Probably start out fairly young. You may have somebody. This would be the only fun part about watching this piece of shit series. This would be the only fun part. If there's a character that starts out as like a rookie, and you can see every step of their career for 22 straight seasons, that would be fascinating as a character study. That would be fascinating. You see them, they're caught on 4K their entire career. They start as a rookie. The first day they walk in the door is the first day of the series, and they're still with the show. That would be amazing. That would almost be worth watching this crap. This putrid garbage. I bet the number is going to be no more than 300. There will be nobody that has more than 300 episodes. Because I'm sure they've had monstrous turnover over 22 seasons. Holy shit! Sean Murray, 474 episodes. He finally left this year, apparently. They've had 491? Did they say? 491 episodes, which is probably counting the episode count to the end of this season, which is going to go into next year. So he probably finished at the end of last season. Because it looks like, well, maybe he's starting into this season. It looks like, well, I've never even heard of Sean Murray. But probably this is why, because he's been doing this since 2003. Crap, that is incredible. This may be what I'm talking about, though. Like, he may start as a rookie, doing parking tickets, and now he's a detective as he leaves the show, right? David McCallum did 459 episodes. Mark Harmon, 436. They've had people, they're really turning over the cast this season. People started in 2003, and they're leaving either last year, 2024, or 2025. They're blowing out the cast out the door. Getting rid of all the old guard, apparently is. Because a lot of these people that have all these episodes, they started in 2003 or 2004, and they're getting rid of them this season. Great, they must be winding down. Maybe they're going to finally cancel the series. Crazy. Yeah, almost everybody. There's a shitload of people here who have been here from the beginning that finished either last year or this year. That's very weird. What an interesting writing choice. This isn't really the purpose of this podcast. But point being, a shitload of people like that. That is a super popular show. Clearly, it's been going since 2003, man. There are millions of people who love this show. And it's been on for a long time. And it's got a hell of a legacy. It's been on almost as long as One Piece. But I ain't never going to watch the shit. Why am I going to watch it just because it's been around for a long time? Or just because it's super popular and millions of people like it? I don't give a shit, man. I will never. You couldn't pay. You literally couldn't go to Patreon right now and pay me to watch that crap. You don't have enough money. I'm throwing down the gauntlet right now. You do not have enough money to coerce me to watch that shit. I ain't doing it. So, I think you're feeling cheer pressure is what I'm talking about. You feel cheer pressure. I talk about One Piece a lot, and I'm sure a bunch of other people you interact with talk about One Piece a lot. It's out there, especially if you're in an anime. You can't go to any anime page without seeing Luffy's big stupid face on there. You're feeling the cheer pressure. Just ignore it. Who gives a shit? You do you, boo. Try 7 Deadly Sins. Report back to me. Let me know what you think of that. All right. Hunter Stone. I think One Piece won the cliffhanger poll because you're an anime channel and it's the only And it's the one mostly watched. I actually didn't choose an answer to the poll because I hadn't seen any of the other shows. Well, you should, especially Lost. If you like anime, you would like Lost. Ariel. But by the way, yeah, I do think you're right. I mean, yeah, I assume we're well rounded just because you can go to a Colts football YouTube channel and hear a reference to Severance or Succession. People do more than just watch sports, and people do more than just watch anime. I assume, right? Especially the Venn diagram of people who watch anime and people who watch superhero stuff is probably almost a complete circle. Probably, I mean, there's probably a shit ton of crossover there. I don't think I listen to superhero shows. Only Murders. No, I've listed How to Get Away with Murder. Excellent show. Excellent show. Man, those cliffhangers were banging, man. They were banging. So, that's the. I don't know if that's really anime, but it's very messy. You would like it, I think. I should rewatch that show soon. With all my spare time. Ariel. My comment about not even feeling able to change myself was partly a joke, but I agree with what you had to say to it. Yeah, and I think I acknowledged it was a joke, but then, I'm also going to, comment on it, expound, pontificate, There are many things I'd still like to change about myself, but I have come to be content with a lot of the things I used to struggle with in the past. And yeah, trying to lose weight as you get older sucks. Yep, it really does. Metabolism be messing with you, man. And my thing is, because I have one of my best friends has an eating disorder. She's had it for a really long time. She's 36 now, and she's had it since she was a ballet dancer in her teenage years, right? From probably started ballet dancing around 8 years old. Soon after that, because they have to stay very, very slim, is probably when it started. And I've talked to her about it a lot. And I've even made the point, who are you doing this for? Because she's asexual. So she's not doing it for the boys or the girls. She's not doing it to be attractive to another person. She's not doing it for other women, because sometimes women will be competitive with how they look. And dudes can be competitive with how they look to other dudes as well, right? They're going to a reunion. They want to look better for their bros, right? But so she's not doing it for the other women because she doesn't really give a shit what anybody thinks. She's doing it for herself, but what is the metric? Like, what is the standard? Who is judging you? Like, there's no almighty entity. Like, there might be, but if you're religious. But I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to wrap my head around what is the metric? What are we judging? Like, what is the standard? And who is imposing it? And who is doing the judging when it comes to how you look, right? Like, be it clothes. This is the first new shirt I've had in 2 years. You can tell by how much I wear it. I mean, I'm actually just I'm kind of in a recording marathon, right? But basically, when I stop recording, sleep is when I change shirts. But what is, who is it for, is what I ask. There are people that it's for, they want to attract the other, that's why sometimes when people get married, they start gaining weight. Because they want to stay slim to attract a member of their preference, right? Or they're ultra competitive with other people in their friend group or something. But if that's not the case, who is it for? Who are you doing it for? Is what I don't understand. And look, I'm not a psychologist. I don't understand eating disorders. And I'm not going to pretend I do, right? I don't. That's kind of what I'm saying is I don't understand. My point is, who gives a shit? Because for her, if she hits over 100 pounds, if she gets to 100 pounds, she starts freaking out. Typically, she's around 96 to 98, right? She's like 5 foot tall. And so she starts freaking out if she hits 100 pounds. So my thing is, who is sitting there? Who or what is sitting there waiting to see if you walk out that door at 101? Who gives a shit, right? Like, who is it for, is what I don't understand. Like, who are we looking good for? Maybe it's just my own warped personality, because I just literally don't give a shit what anybody thinks. I just don't. Because of my childhood. Got relentlessly, mercilessly ridiculed from the earliest I can remember, from about 6 years old until I was about 16. 10 straight years of that shit. You just stop giving. Your only choice is to stop giving a crap. You can't care because you can't function if you cared what other people think. It was in the household, and then bullies in school and shit, but mostly it was brothers and stepfathers and shit, right? So you couldn't function if you cared. So I just didn't care, and that just carried on, right? I don't give a shit. Like, okay, you think I'm fat? All right, congratulations, your eyes work. I just don't care, right? So maybe it's just me, my warped personality. I'm willing to admit that that's probably what that is. But she couldn't answer the question. Because she's saying this for her, but for her, why? Like, what? Why is that your standard? And again, it's weird because 100 is just a round number. Why not 102? Why not 99? Like, it's because it's a big fat round number. It tells you it's just arbitrary, right? I don't know. I mean, I think that people don't stop and interrogate why they're doing things. Like, why do you need new expensive clothes every 6 months? Why do you need she's spending got like $100 on her hair and well, no, I think the hair is like less than that, but then she spends a shit ton of money on her nails, right? A lot of money on her hair. For what? She works at a school with disabled children, right? So it's not really the workplace. You're not really looking all glamorous there. So I don't know, man. I don't think people interrogate why they do things sometimes. Who is it for? Who is judging you? And people, non-religious people say something like, well, didn't want to do that because that wouldn't be nice. For who? Or they'll even be like, I didn't want to think this about this person. Like for instance, a person that's been married 3 times or something. I didn't really want to judge them because that wouldn't be nice. Well, it's in your head. If you're not religious, man, I can see if you think God can read your mind. So I guess it's you. You don't want you to judge yourself. Because ain't nobody else in your mind, man. We don't have any mind readers. And we don't have any, according to me, gods reading people's minds. So, I don't know, man. But I think people just don't interrogate why they want to why they're agreeing to these standards that society has imposed on them, and just make themselves miserable. So it can be very free and to be like, whatever, man. I'm just happy with what I am. Another pontification, unprovoked this time, pretty much. I actually slimmed way down about 20 years ago, right after having a second child, which is impressive, by the way. I've heard it's really hard to lose weight right after having a kid, especially because having a kid's a lot of work, and pretty quickly too. Very impressive. But in the last decade or so, I let myself go. Now I'm just imagining Homer Simpson taking his belt off. Right, let myself go. And now I'm slowly losing some weight, but I'm honestly mostly happy with the fact that since I've changed my diet a bit and tried to get some exercise, I don't have as many aches and pains. That's what's really bad. It's about quality of life. If you're too fat to fit through the door, that's a quality of life issue. If you can't walk from the car into the grocery store without being out of breath, that's a quality of life issue. Then we're not talking about who's judging what or whatever. Now it's like I want to be able to enjoy what time I have left. So I walk a lot, exercise, Stairs give me a bit of trouble. But, I think that any old person will say that. I'm sleeping better in the last year, for instance. I was calling out of work about once a month, whereas previously I had never called out at this job. Just because my muscles were so sore and achy that I could barely move. And I hadn't slept too well because of that. Yeah, it's a vicious cycle. The lack of sleep creates scenarios where you just feel like crap all day, which means you're more tired. And then you get, you're too tired to sleep. And then the aches and pains, the whole thing's a vicious cycle. You got to break the cycle, probably starting with sleep. Start with getting a good night's rest. And I think everything else will follow from there, right? I've had a lot of struggles with sleep at a lot of different points in my life. Currently, sleeping pretty good. So I guess now my main goal would be to keep it up for better functionality. That's what I'm talking about, functional. And any weight loss will be going on this is an interesting, considering you talk about weight loss, I love this metaphor. And any weight loss will just be icing on the cake rather than being the main goal. Yeah, icing on the cake. Not going to help you with that weight loss. We all know the icing is the best part. Some people just eat the icing, right? I mean, I like some cake on it too, but you know. All right, back to Andy. Yeah, I think if you take someone who has seen every episode of One Piece and ask if they like the first 100 episodes of One Piece more than the first 100 episodes of Yu Yu, they will probably say One Piece just because maybe there's certain details in the first 100 episodes you don't appreciate until you've seen way more of the story. But for me, as a person who watched the first 100 episodes of One Piece and then Yu Yu right after, I definitely preferred Yu Yu. I don't even know if that's true because here's the thing. We were talking about Lost. The Lost has flashbacks. And I've rewatched the show about 10 times since I'd first seen it. But I don't watch the flashbacks after the first time. The flashbacks are vital to understanding the characters and they're vital to understanding the story, the themes, and everything. You need to see the flashbacks or the show is garbage. But for me, after you've seen the flashbacks one time, you get it. Okay, this is why this character is doing this. This is why this character is an asshole. This is why this character is passive. This is why this character feels guilty all the time. You got it. You understand. So when you rewatch the show, you can skip the flashbacks and just watch all the good shit, which is what's happening in the current day on the island, right? But you need the flashbacks are vital. You had to have those. So yeah, there might be important, crucial information in these first 100 episodes or interesting details. That doesn't make them good episodes. Some of the flashbacks are not even good in Lost, you know. So there's a couple of characters that are just not very good. But they still explain things. So people can take the information from those episodes without considering them great episodes. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it's just, like I said, I don't think you can, it's a one-to-one comparison because One Piece is so much longer. I think you'd have to say the 250 One Piece versus 100 Yu Yu. But even then, it's really just a philosophical conversation because who gives a shit which one's better? Who cares? If you enjoy one, then enjoy it. But yeah, for the sake of conversation, you know, I don't mind having a conversation. But I think if we're going to have the conversation, we have to do a more equitable comparison, which is probably 250 to 100. Just because One Piece is so much longer. Still, Andy, didn't Breaking Bad and Lost have multiple writers? And they had a lot more time than Tagashi. I know they didn't have all the time in the world. But, well, I wasn't comparing them in a sense because it's apples and oranges as far as like you have writing rooms, you have not 9 months between seasons. Well, you have 9 months between seasons, but they only have about a month off. You know, basically, well, it depends on what you're talking about. The writers start writing, depending on what kind of show it is, probably Lost 2 months before they start shooting. Breaking Bad maybe a month before they start shooting. But anyway, so the writers start working with Lost with their 24 episode schedule. The writers would start working in July. Okay, the series premieres in September. So you know they're writing the first episodes that they're going to shoot, and then the writers are about 3 weeks ahead of the shooting. You know, the story would be broken. They know the locations and props they need, but they would only be about 3 weeks ahead. So the writers would finish writing January or February. They would finish shooting in April, and in May would be the final episodes that air, right? Sometimes they'd finish shooting in March, you know. But so the writers would finish in February or March. And they would go back to work in July. So the writers have quite a bit of time off. But the executive producers, the people who drive the story, the people who the story flows from them, they give the writers what to do. They're working until the first couple weeks into May with the final episode. They're tweaking it. They're putting in the final details. Okay, here's this is what it's supposed to be. This, you know, doing the final editing to the second week of May, and then the finale will air a couple weeks after that, right? So they're done the second week of May, and they start back up in July. So, but they still have 6 weeks off. So yeah, I mean, it's not comparable. You know, like you know, the amount of time they have off versus the amount of time somebody like him would have off. What I was saying though was you're still making it up as you go along. You know, so they're doing the same things. But no, if your point is we can't compare it to them, I agree. I wasn't comparing it to them in that sense. I was just saying There are shows, people. Basically, what I said was people like Breaking Bad, so they don't complain that it was made up when they go along. People don't like Lost, so they do complain that it was made up when they go along, as they go along, right? Both shows were made up as they go along. Lost gets criticized because people don't like it. Breaking Bad doesn't get criticized; it gets praised because people like it. That's the point. That has nothing to do with how large their writing rooms are or how much time they get off, right? It's apples and oranges. But it is interesting in that if Yu gets criticized for him writing it weekly, a lot of other anime write it weekly. A lot of other manga write weekly. I don't think even My Hero Academia, which is pretty tightly plotted, I don't think he had an 8-year plan when he first started writing it. Do we know like what he thought the endpoint was going to be for every single character? No, I doubt it. None of them do. I'd be shocked if they do. Any series, any manga series that lasted longer than 2 years, I would be shocked if they had a plan all the way through. They all make it up as they go along. But only certain shows get criticized for it, That's what I'm talking about. Also, Andy, it's definitely frowned upon to not draw the stuff you yourself in your manga. It's part of your job. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it's a weird pressure because of the genre and the location. Just like rap music. If you don't write your own rap lyrics that you sing, you're considered inferior. Nobody gives a shit. Country music stars half and half. It's about 50-50. They write their own shit. Most of them don't. So, but they don't get criticized. Rock musicians don't get criticized. Linda Ronstadt, her biggest hits, the long time just came back because of The Last of Us TV show about 3 or 4 years ago. She was getting all this praise, and then people were talking about how much money she was going to make. And she came out, she tweeted, she said, no, she's not going to make a dime because she didn't write the song. She just sang the song. She got paid to sing the song. She got an award for it, maybe. But she didn't write the song. So when it came back and it went to like #1 streaming for 2 weeks and a shit ton of money was made for the songwriter, that wasn't her. It was whoever wrote the song. She didn't get a dime. No criticism. But if a rap singer doesn't write his own shit, he gets criticized. Same here. It's just weird that because you're doing manga instead of comic books, that you have to draw it or you suck. That I don't like that because I'm a writer, but I'm not a drawer, so I couldn't do it. They wouldn't let me. I think that sucks. Okay, up to Hunterstone. In the first 100 episodes of One Piece, the best arcs, in my opinion, are Arlong Park, Drum Island, and Alabaster. Alabaster isn't done yet. That's why I said 100 episodes or so. Yeah, I think Alabaster went up to like 110 or some shit, 115. And isn't that when Robin joined the crew after Alabaster? I believe it was. So she wasn't quite introduced in the first 100. So that's why I'm saying 250, Also, Hunterstone. It's weird how the arc in Yu called Chapter Black really has barely anything to do with Chapter Black. It's just a motivation, which is okay. You can have a motivation be the central point of a story, right? And sometimes the motivation isn't even revealed till the end. I kind of like that. I kind of like it where it's like you don't even realize what the title means until you get to the end of the episode. It's like, wait a minute. That's what the hell that means. But yeah, it probably, when he called it Chapter Black, he thought it would have a bigger impact. He thought there'd be more to it. And then, because I assume, do they label the arcs at the beginning of the arc? Like Neil Gaiman did. When he had, Sandman had 13 story arcs, I think. Yeah, I think he has 13 story arcs. Each one got its own book, right? So when he started the Kindly Ones, Chapter 1, it said the Kindly Ones, Chapter 1. He named the arc at the beginning. He had not finished writing the Kindly Ones when that went to press. So he only wrote a month or two ahead. So when the first chapter of the Kindly Ones hit the stores, he was writing Chapter 3 at the most. So he didn't know how much of an impact the Kindly Ones were going to have, but he must have, and he's probably somebody who plots out things pretty meticulously, right? He seems that kind of person. So he would be pretty confident that by the time he got to the end of the story, it would still be about the Kindly Ones. But if that's true in manga, if they label the arc at the beginning of the arc. He may have thought that the chapter black was going to be more important than it ended up being. And then you're stuck with the title because you've got 10 issues who already have the title on it. I don't know if that's how that works. But ironically, I just finished recording a video where I read issue 1111 of One Piece. So I've actually read a manga issue now. I've seen it. I've looked at it with my own eyes, and I kind of get the vibe now. I didn't notice if they had an arc title on it. I don't think they did. But that would explain if that's how that works. Also, Hunter, I really like Yu characters, but I don't think the plot is anything special. The arc we're currently on has been pretty interesting story-wise, but I think it's because it's been more character-focused. Yeah, I'd agree with that, as far as the character focus. I love the characters. The plot is the plot, and they do pretty interesting things. If it was him, you take Yu and his bully buddy, those two, put them in a private detective series, the Pet Shop Detectives or whatever the Dead Boy Detectives. Put them in that, and you make them. There's nothing supernatural going on. They're just investigating crimes in downtown Tokyo. I would still watch the hell out of that. It's a completely different story. They're investigating crimes. They're basically doing, Sherlock Holmes shit, just basic private detective shit, missing persons. Maybe they solve a murder or two, and they, maybe there's sometimes the job is they got to make sure a spouse isn't cheating or whatever. But those two characters are interesting. Their dynamic is fascinating. So I would still watch it because I like those two characters. But, take some boring characters and put them into this plot, and this show is unwatchable. So, what would be a plot that would be watchable no matter what the characters were? Who the characters were? Probably Attack on Titan. That plot was awesome. That was a very interesting plot. It wouldn't matter who the hell the characters were. Now, that's a plot-driven series. It wouldn't matter who the hell the characters were. But most of these shows have, just for me personally, the characters have to be great or I just don't care, right? And those two characters specifically shine for me. So I think those for sure put them in some relatively boring compared to this. Because, a private detective with two teenagers running it could be very interesting. There's a lot of meat on that bone. But it could also be not so interesting, especially it would be mundane and run of the mill compared to this shit. We're fighting demons in another realm and shit, The plot's a hell of a lot more interesting than Yu. But those characters could carry me through the relatively mundane plot, is what I'm saying. But you take who are two tedious characters? Or just not even tedious, just boring. Like Botan's boring. So if it was Botan and who's a boring character? There's just not much to them. They're not doing anything really. I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Maybe I'll do a poll, find out who the boring characters are. Anyway, yeah. For me, it's the characters with you. And finally, for the feedback video, this is Ariel. I agree with you about the whole body swapping thing and not being able to carry memories over. If that were ever to be a possibility in the real world, but I'm fine with it in fiction. Yeah, I mean, it is fiction. I just wish they would write the story the way I imagine it, because I think it'd be interesting. Because if we swap personalities, you would come into my body and be burdened with all the memories of my childhood and my life choices and all this shit and the way I've set up my life. You'd be burdened with all that. How would you deal with it? Do you have the kind of personality to be like, okay, well, let's just keep fighting. Let's keep getting up in the morning, keep fighting, even though things seem hopeless, right? And if I went into yours life, and for the sake of argument, say, you're a teenager, and there's a lot of pressure at school, and your parents suck, and your siblings suck, and things are just pretty damn miserable right now. Let's say that's what your situation is. I know my personality could handle that because I had similar situations. So maybe you didn't. Maybe you just were pushed around, and not you specifically. Some person watching this. Because I'm not saying you're a pussy or anything, but some person watching this, maybe they just have a very docile, submissive personality. And so they've been getting pushed around and feel bad and maybe even contemplating horrible things, just ending it all and whatever. And because things are just so miserable. And then my personality comes in there and I'm like, I'm not going to take your shit. F you. Get the hell out of my room. And they've never experienced that before. They're going to be, what the hell? See, that's what it would be. It would be the same, you would think you're that person. I would just, essentially, you would wake up one morning and not be willing to take anybody's shit anymore because that's my personality. And it was my personality from birth, as far as I know. It wasn't formed. See, anything formed, any parts of my personality formed by memories would be gone because I'd be in with new memories. But the core personality, the thing I was born with, that reacted to these early traumas and trials and tribulations, reacted a certain way, would react in that same certain way in another body with other circumstances. If it, now, I don't know how it would react if the childhood was great and everybody was loving, lovey-dovey and everything, and, I don't know how I'd respond to that. But I know that would be the story I would write. It would be two personalities that are not suited. Well, it'd be one personality is not suited for the circumstances they find themselves in. And then the other personality is very suited, where the personality that used to be there was not suited. So what you would have is you would have two stories. One story would be all of a sudden the marshmallow is fighting back on every front and ain't taking anybody's shit anymore, and people around them don't know how to handle that because they've never experienced this person not taking shit. They're 15, they're 18, whatever, and all that time they take all the shit, and all of a sudden they're not taking shit anymore. What the hell is that? Meanwhile, the other person is like, what the actual hell? Like, what is happening here? They don't know how to deal with this. And the way I wrote a story like this one time, and basically it was a hardened criminal who was a real asshole and really scary and had everybody scared. And then it was a girl in an abusive situation, right? The stepfather was abusing her and stuff. They swap bodies. So the girl had a docile personality, and she's the kingpin of a minor criminal gang that has control of a couple streets, and everybody's terrified of her, and she's very docile, and she don't know how to handle it. All of a sudden, it's like you wake up and you don't feel like being an asshole anymore. You don't feel like hurting people anymore. And so she was finding solutions to problems that were innovative and kept the gang even stronger, because violence isn't always the solution to everything. But the interesting part about that story was, eventually, the memories, because she still had the memories, she thought she was still that person. So she had the memories, she started creeping towards violence because, nature versus nurture. The nurture in her memories started to affect her personality over time, over a few days, right? At first, she was 100% passive, and then the nurture started affecting and eroding away at that passivity because she had memories of 25 years of being a violent asshole eating away at her core personality. But she still was a softer, smarter kind of criminal who actually could rise to the top of the criminal hierarchy of the entire city, because she wouldn't always resort to violence, but she would be violent if she had to because of her nurture. That was the memories. Meanwhile, the criminal personality, this person is predisposed to being a violent asshole and solving every problem with violence. And he was born that way, right? Clearly. He was born that way. Goes into the body of this girl who's being abused and starts terrorizing. That stepfather was the first one to go head first out that window, man. Oh my God, it must have been an accident. Nobody's going to think she did it. She's been passive and docile her whole life. Man, he went 3 stories face down, face first into the asphalt. Sayonara, bitch. Then she started handling her business. So it was a really good story. I made it. It was a short film. I never shot it. Didn't have the money because it would require special effects to show the transition. But the poster was going to be Freaky Friday from Hell or something, right? If we were allowed to say that. I wasn't sure about the legality of that. We never got that far. But that would have been a really good story, I think, because that's the kind of body swapping story I want to see that we've never seen. How does the cumulative effect of memories affect your core personality if you're suddenly thrust into that situation? It's there but for the grace of God. And then how in another situation would another kind of personality be affected? That's what's fascinating to me. Rather than You jump in the body and all of a sudden you just somehow you have your old memories. Well, then you're the same person, man. You're just the same person. You cosplaying as this criminal. She could never pull it off. If she couldn't access the if she thinks she's this little girl in this man's body, she would never pull it off. It'd only be is if she thought she was this person, but she has a different personality, a different way of looking at things. So that to me, I like that a lot. Of course, I'm going to like my own writing, but that's the one I wish we could have shot. I think that would have been really good. It could be a thing where there is a soul or spirit that carries a memory along with it. I was thinking like an umbilical cord, a spiritual umbilical cord where you can carry your memories. And those stories are out there. I mean, we've got a million of the body swapping stories where they keep their memories. So I just thought it'd be interesting to not do that. That's all I'm saying. There is a recent anime, actually adapted from a popular Chinese web novel, that I watched a few episodes of but dropped because it was just too much. They speed ran the source material, something like cramming 40 plus chapters into something crazy like that into an episode. Jesus. And or skipping content, so it's hard to follow unless you do some outside research for the outside of the anime. That sounds like that really sucks. That's stupid. That actually seems to partially recognize the concept, not to spoil too much just in case someone's soul transmigrates into another body of a person of another world, time, dimension, etc. And though he retains his memories of his previous life, he is also able to function in his new circumstances because he can access the memories of the body he's currently in. Yeah, that would be the hybrid, right? Because you have physical, biological memories in this body. If you're in this body, if you can move the hand and you can talk and you can see, then you can access those memories, right? So you would have the memories. Two sets of memories might be interesting, and I think there's a lot you could do with that. I like my thing where it's like really what we're examining in my story is the soul. We're examining nature versus nurture, right? Which is, it depends on what story you want to tell. Really the Freaky Friday is just fish out of water. The original novel, which I've read, was the child didn't understand the mother and thought the mother sucked. So the mother did this. She was in control. In the original novel, she did this on purpose. She had an old Romani curse or something that she used. In the movies, I think it's always done to them by a third party. But in the novel, the mother did it. And we only see the child's perspective. We're in the child's head for the entire novel. So she runs into when she's in the mother's body, she runs into the child who acts just like her, but it was the mother just pretending to be her, acting like she has observed her act, right? And so we only get the child's point of view who's in the mother's body. But she did it to teach her a lesson. Hey, my life sucks too. You think I've got it easy? I'm a mother of two, I think it was. Got a job, I got all this shit to do, and I got kids who don't appreciate me. It was a life lesson. So that's the story they want to tell. So they use the body swapping to tell that story. In that case, if that's the story you want to tell, then yeah, you need to have the old memories go with you, right? It needs to be the classic because that's what you're telling. You want her to know she's her so she can learn this lesson that, hey, being an adult sucks too. Respect your mother. You asshole. You ungrateful bastard. You ungrateful little bitch. Respect your mother, right? That's the moral. That's the message. That's the theme of the actual story. So that theme only functions if she knows who she is in the mom's body. So it depends on what story you're trying to tell. So I think that's what a lot of it is. People want to tell the story of what is it like to walk in their shoes for a mile. That's essentially what they want to do, right? All right. Well, that is it for the feedback video. Let me go to the podcast. Okay, the first one from Matakoya. Luffy actually says himself that he is no hero, and Zoro does as well. They both know that they are pirates. And having the option to not be forced to be good gives Luffy more freedom. Yeah, why not just be a piece of shit? You're more free. It's like the sword group in the Marines, where they allow people to go out and harm citizens and whatnot, and in return the Marines take no responsibility for them. Yeah, I get what you're saying. In the end, it's hard to remember that we actually are following the perspective of the bad guys. No, it's not hard to remember. I reject that premise. The government, the authoritarian asshole government of 800 years. Get them out of here. They're the bad guys. We're just not the good guys. And that the average person in the world is on the side of the Marines. Yeah, because they don't know what's happening, right? if only by the fact that the Marines are made up of the children and parents of the world, people from every blue. People from every blue. Don't. That's not really a phrase you hear every day, do you? People from every blue. People like Nami's adopted mother and Luffy's grandfather. And Luffy actually has to be reminded of this when they meet the Ice Admiral because a bunch of civilians are happy to see him, but Luffy warns them that he is an admiral. And then he realizes that isn't a bad thing, actually. Not to the real people, right? Not to the unwashed masses, anyway. Ariel. Years ago, I had a friend that I wouldn't have believed to be guilty during the time I knew her. But looking back now, I think it's likely. Who lost or left multiple jobs, maybe 3 or 4 in a 5 or so year stretch of knowing and being close with her, because of suspicions of stealing. You thieving bastard! We met because of working together and hanging out, but we just eventually lost touch after she moved to a different city, not too far away, and just had busy lives and stopped making efforts to see each other. Looking at her work record, I now think that might have been for the best. Yep. Hey, man. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's you. Last 3 are from Hunterstone. You're only thinking about the bad and not the good Luffy's doing. Him, by the way, nobody has defended Luffy until now. I'm getting to these comments. Well, this is a podcast, of course. It's only 2 people. I guess I'm thinking of the other questions, which were the feedback episode. But still, Hunter's the only one who's going to take Luffy's defense. Somebody has to do it, right? That means everybody else who watched this episode agreed with me. So, I feel pretty good about that. Him defeating those villains is a good thing for these civilians, but he definitely only does it for the people he cares about. A hero can be defined as a good person who does good things and thinks about the responsibilities. Yeah, I don't think Luffy thinks he's responsible for anything. He's a free spirit. He goes around, wait a minute, we're friends, and this person hurt you. Time to dispense some justice. He's not he's not responsible for anything. He's not even responsible for his own crew. He's not responsible for his ship. He doesn't take responsibility for anything, right? So yeah, I don't know that you can be a hero and not take responsibility for anything. So this is a good point. Luffy is not a hero, but he is a good person who does not think about it. Luffy is supposed to be the symbol of freedom, and freedom can mean a lack of responsibility. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not saying I don't think I gave a punishment for him. I found him guilty. Punishment should be he has to be a chore boy for a year at a Waffle House. Boy, if you like to fight, that's a good job for you. You should check out the Disney Plus animated series Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It has a really good characterization and plot, but it does have a weird animation you have to get used to. Let's go look at that real quick. There's got to be something, right? Jesus, yeah. I see what you mean. Just watched a little bit of the trailer. That would be hard to get used to. I don't know. It looks like almost like if clip art was animation. Kind of what that looks like. Trash, in other words. Hot, wet garbage. The first season of the anime The Promised Neverland is almost perfect. And then everyone tells you it seriously drops off after that and don't bother watching the rest. Jesus. I wonder what the premise of that is. A group of orphan children and their plan to escape from their orphanage after learning the dark truth behind their existence. Ooh, that sounds good. It only ran for 3 years. I mean, I wonder how many episodes it had. A total of 23 episodes. So, how long was the first season? It looks like it was 2 seasons, so maybe there was like 12 and 11 or something. I don't know. I guess it didn't take long to fall off a cliff, did it? Well, as you can tell, because you'll see the final result here, not enough Q&A to make this a separate video, so that's why there's no F-bomb. I realized as I got into this last section, I was like, well, I might as well save my F-bomb for the actual podcast. So, guess we'll get to that now. It'll be weird because now I'm going to do the intro for the podcast, hand off to this Q&A, and then come back. So this is going to be out of time. I'll be unstuck in time here. Okay, well, that was a lot. So we're back. Let's go ahead and talk about the anime episode highlight. I think I did this last episode as well. For the second podcast episode in a row, I'm going to talk about a pilot episode. The Apothecary Diaries, if that's the correct way to pronunciate. Jesus Christ. I can't even pronounce pronunciation. You gotta be shitting me. If that's the correct way to pronounce it. I don't know. But that pilot episode was excellent. You really want to accomplish three things. You want to definitely have us get to know the character, the protagonist we're going to be spending our time with. Typically in anime it's one or two people. Live action it can be more, the ensemble can be more, but typically in anime I've noticed it's one or two people. We're really in the point of view of basically one character. It was that way with Demon Slayer, it's this way with this one. The medical girl, whatever the hell her name is. You know, I've only watched 4 episodes, so I'm not hip on that. But sets her up. She's very intelligent. She's strong-willed. She's hilarious. Very, very funny. It's a funny show. But you set up the protagonist. You set up the premise of the show. What is going to drive the story of the show? Do they have a missing sibling? Are they looking for their father? Are they trying to cure their filthy, disgusting demon of a sister? What's driving? Do they have somebody they want to kill? Is their civilization being oppressed? Are aliens invading? We got to rescue, save the world against the aliens. Whatever the case may be. What's the situation? And then just general world building. So those are the 3 things you're trying to do in the first episode. Then you got to do the character backstories. They're juggling so many balls in the pilot, right? This is relatively simple. She doesn't have much backstory. She's just with the family. Now she's been kidnapped. So she doesn't have a lot of backstory where, like, for 2 years she studied in Guam and she was with the World Peace Organization, if that's even still a thing. I mean, not in this world, but, so, you're just setting up the world. You're setting up who the character is, what their backstory is, what motivates them, and then what is the series going to be about. They do all of that flawlessly in the first episode. You know exactly what you're getting. In the next 3 episodes I watched, just bore that out. I know exactly what I'm getting, chapter and verse. I know what to expect. Now there's a bunch of twists and turns and a bunch of, plot twists and things. I don't expect those things. But I expect the tone. I know the tone of what I'm getting. All from the first episode. So that was really well done. This is an excellent pilot. So far it's an excellent series. I've only seen the 4 episodes. It's an Ariel sponsored series. And one thing I know about her, she likes things with a sense of humor. She likes things that are funny. This show's definitely funny. I like how petty and spiteful the main character is because she got kidnapped. And the kidnappers are profiting off of her work she's doing as she's been kidnapped. And so she doesn't want to get a promotion. She doesn't want to stand out and earn more money because that means they'll get more money. F them. She doesn't want them. Matter of fact, we're past the feedback episode. Fuck them. Fuck those kidnappers, man. Some bullshit. Because, they're going to kidnap. This is the premise of this world. And I've talked about this happens in Central America as well. And there's just places where kidnapping is just a business. It's a business transaction. It's almost like tag, you're it. They come up, they tag you. Okay, you've been kidnapped, pay us some money. Okay, you got the money, here you go. They did it in medieval times as well. They would kidnap nobles and ransom them back, right? Kidnapping as a business just seems abhorrent to me. We're going to deprive you of your freedom for money. It's just shitty, man. And it's just a transaction, man. They kidnapped her, and it's just a business transaction. They throw her in a basket. They take her to the palace and sell her to the palace. This is the official government of this country keeping kidnappers employed. Basically financing and endorsing crime in their own country. Terrorizing their own people, ripping families apart. And then the government is literally hand in hand with these assholes. Because she's working in the palace for the emperor, man. Government-endorsed terrorism on your own people. F you and F this business. They should be eradicated, man. Everyone who's kidnapped should be hunted down and shot. And then all the people responsible in the government who endorse and finance this shit, they should be hung up from a rafter, man. some bullshit. Like it just really rubs me the wrong way, man. Like it just, because I know it's a real thing. This is fictional, but I know it's a real thing. It's just abhorrent, man. Like it's one of the worst crimes you get back. You were ripping people from their families, from their life situations, depriving them of freedom. Now, most cases, you're just deprived of freedom for a couple of days. You get ransomed. You leave. You go back, right? So it's only a couple of days. Even that's horrible. She's put in indentured servitude for like 2 years. She's got to work 2 years before she gets released. Kiss my ass. You're gonna kidnap me and deprive me of 2 years of my life and freedom, so these guys can get drunk at the bar? Yeah, I'm like her, man. Like I'd be pissed too. They ain't getting jack shit from me. No money, no work. I ain't get promoted. I'm not getting any pay raise whatsoever. So you can get more money. F you. Yeah, that would piss me off. But anyway, point being, that's my favorite episode of the last 2 weeks. All right, moving on. I have finished an anime, Seven Deadly Sins. Almost finished with Yu. I just, I thought I was going to be able to binge all 12 episodes. 12 episodes, got 5 in, got distracted with other shit. Still haven't got back to the last 7. I will finish that by next time. Hopefully. Yeah, so I haven't watched any more Yu, but I did finish Seven Deadly Sins. It's got a sequel series, and it's interesting that, like, the last couple episodes kind of basically, set up the sequel series. And I talked about this during the feedback as well. The Seven Deadly Sins. It's a good series. It's plot driven, even though there's good characterization, but not great characterization. It's just good, but it is plot driven. And a nice tight 96 episodes. You're in and you're out. Very little filler. Everything's motivated to something. It's all story motivated. It's all flows very well. I think the continuity is really tight. I don't think I've noticed any continuity errors or plot holes in most of these anime. Like, it's tightly written, man, in most cases. Especially these, modern anime. But yeah, man, it's just, it's a good series. There's a couple things, like, a lot of people just can't get into it because of basically the way the main character is feeling up a woman he's attracted to. It's played off as a joke, and it happens way too much. He just goes over and starts squeezing her breasts. It's just, and I heard in normies they stopped watching it because they didn't like that. Like it's just played for laughs, and it's accepted. It's not funny. It really detracts from the series, and it's probably the worst thing about the series. Fortunately, there's enough going on, and he's a good guy otherwise. But can you be a good guy even if every other single other aspect of your life is good, but then you do this bad thing? Probably not. But she's a willing participant. They were star-crossed lovers. She had loved him in previous incarnations and all that shit. But still, it's just the messaging is whack. You don't want it. And I know it's mostly boys watching this, but you don't even want boys seeing that shit because then they'll imitate it. And I'm not big on that. I don't think you should censor yourself because you're afraid of what other people will do with your material. But still, there are limits. And the worst crime is it's not funny. A lot of the jokes aren't funny. A lot of the pig jokes aren't funny, and it's just, it is interesting. The pig stuff he's an interesting character. I liked him. He can make me laugh, but it's interesting. He can make me laugh, but also half the time he wasn't making me laugh. So there's a lot of just misplaced humor in the show. And I also think I'm getting tired of the God tier level characters. We're seeing this a little bit in One Piece. We're seeing it a lot in Yu, and this show for sure. It was happening in Bleach. It's probably happening in JoJo, not to the same degree, but it's like the characters are just unbeatable. They're awesome, and they have the power to destroy a mountain with one punch. Like once you get that powerful, it's just not interesting anymore. You can't imagine it. It has no frame of reference, man. You can eat the sun. Okay, great. You eat the sun, but you're all powerful. Then why do we care about any of your fights? Why would we ever think you're going to lose? You're not going to ever lose. So I don't know. I'm just I'm tired of the God tier low powers. I like something smaller scale. Like the Apothecary Diaries is smaller scale. Even so far, Demon Slayer is smaller scale. He's not trying to save the world. He's just trying to save his sister. And this is one woman trying to struggle in her job, essentially. You know, she's struggling with her job. So smaller scale. That's kind of what I'm into now. I've seen enough of the god level power shit, and there's a lot of that in Seven Deadly Sins. Ooh, most powerful creature ever. Oh, actually, he's the most powerful creature ever. All right, these are the two most powerful creatures ever. Let them fight. You know, it's just a big light show at that point. Who cares? So I'm a little over that. So I'm glad that the two new shows I've started recently are smaller in scale. I'm really glad about that. So it's got that going for it. But overall, I don't think Seven Deadly Sins would make my top 10 anime. In fact, I know it wouldn't. The only question is, would it make top 20? Probably right now, because I don't even know if I've watched 20 total anime. But also, I do. The characters are very endearing. Wrath is very endearing, and Elizabeth's endearing, and Ban and King and Diane, and the other ones whose names I can't remember. They're all endearing characters. They're well drawn, well laid out, engaging, endearing characters that I do miss. So, top 20, but not top 10. So that's kind of my final diagnosis on that show. All right, let's get to the main topic, which is which anime character is the scariest? That's not really what the topic. What was it? Ranking the scariest anime characters. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. um, what I'm going to do instead of ranking anime, because I've just started a couple and I haven't quite finished yet, so I'm skipping that for this episode. I'll use that ranking segment to actually rank characters. So we'll do that in a minute. For now, let's just first of all, I did a couple polls, and this just a conversation starters typically. But the first poll was which of these anime characters would scare you the most in real life, and the possibilities were Jonin from The Monster, Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter, Makima from Chainsaw Man, and then something called AI Enema from some anime that I haven't seen. I didn't want it to just be the breadth of my experience because my experience is so limited. So I did three that I knew about, and for the fourth, I looked at a list of scariest anime characters, and she was number one. So I just put her there, and she only got 4% of the vote. So that was worthwhile. Makima and Johan got second place with 17%, and Hisoka ran away with this at 63%. He's I didn't find him scary. I found him very interesting, but then I realized he was a fraud because the whole series, he wants Gon to get more powerful so that he can fight him because he likes fighting powerful people. It's interesting. Ooh, life's so boring. We don't have anybody to fight. We've seen that in anime a million times. That was my first time seeing it, but I've seen it plenty since then. I need somebody to build themselves up so they'll be powerful enough to challenge me. Because right now, life is boring because nobody can challenge me. But we see him directly interact with people who are extremely powerful, and he has no interest in them. We're talking about people that can knock his dick in the dirt, and he has no interest. So he's a fraud. He ain't looking for strong people to fight. He's got a particular attraction to Gon specifically, and that was just lip service. So that kind of chipped away at my opinion of him at that point. Weak. It doesn't make any sense. You're a lying bitch, essentially. But the voiceover actor was excellent. This is back when I was watching shit in English, right? The English voiceover actors were excellent. I love his character design. He has some great powers, and he had some really cool scenes and a lot of great dialogue. So he was interesting. He didn't scare me, but he was a very interesting character. So I can see why people picked him. Of these, the one that scared me the most is Johan because not only because he works from the shadows. You never know what he's going to do. You can't predict him. You don't see him coming. He kills and leaves and never gets caught, so he's super good at that. And then, like I said, he's unpredictable, and that's one of the keys to being scary. We'll get to that in a minute, but my pick would have been Johan. There's also a comment here, Mister. No girl or pretty boy. I guess that would Johan and Hisoka are pretty boys, I guess, and of course the other two are girls. Is ever going to scare me? Part 1, Orochimaru is the closest thing to in real life scary, creepy. So no girl's ever going to scare you. You should need to look up mug shanties. Shawties? Maybe somebody correct my pronunciation. I think it's shotties. My godson was like this the whole time he was listening. It's shotties. I think I remember correct. I was saying shanties, but whatever it was, the kids know what it actually is, the pronunciation. Anyway, go check that out. There are some scary bitches in there. There's women like trying to kill people in their sleep. If you think everything's cool, you go to sleep. I love you, babe. I love you too. Okay, let's go to sleep. Let's snuggle. Next thing you know, you wake up on fire, man. Like that don't scare you? It should. It should. I mean, girls can be scary too, man. So yeah, you can be sexist if you want to, but you'll wake up on fire. That's all I'm gonna say. All right. The next one is what most makes a character scary. Their look, their powers, their voice, what they're shown doing. We have two comments here. One from Barracuda. Their ability to justify their actions in their sick head. Well, that's everybody. The very few people that will be like, hey, you know what? I know I'm evil and I'm doing this because I'm evil and I suck. There's very few people who are going to be doing so they'll have some stupid ass justification. I'm doing it for God and country. I'm doing it for God, religion. They'll have some justification. So I think basically what you're talking about here is you're saying when their justification is almost convincing, that's scary. I agree. That's why a lot of these lemmings out there are like, Thanos was right. Kill Craven or whatever the hell his name was in Black Panther was right. I mean, no, they weren't right. They had interesting points. They had an interesting argument. Their argument actually had legs, but they're still wrong. This one is SW4T Gaming, basically SWAT gaming, I think. In an anime, it's probably voice, and in real life, it's probably a lack of emotion like characters like Lalo freak me out with how calmly he does horrible things. This isn't directed at you. It's directed at Lalo. I can't go 2 days without seeing some video about how Lalo's the most awesomest villain ever. Or on Reddit, every goddamn Better Call Saul post is about how awesome Lalo is. Man, F Lalo. He was lame, man. He was funny. The actor was charismatic as hell. He had some good lines. He sucked, man. He's doing dumb shit. Killing people on camera because he was looking something up. It was that what was it, DMV or something, or some kind of small business thing, but clearly on camera. Because he was trying to find somebody. I don't even remember who it was. Then he's peeling out in the parking lot of that same place, hitting cars, and leaving a trail of evidence all over the place. It just doesn't make any damn sense, man. There's just so much smarter of a way. You think Gus would have been caught like that? Caught in 4K like that? Lalo sucked. He didn't tell anybody what he's doing. He had his own people, trying to kill him because he was going rogue and not keeping everybody read in and all this stuff. There's just such a smarter way to do shit. It's people like the actor. It's the whole Damon thing is Spike all over again. People like the actor. He's sexy. He's confident. He's charismatic. So people think he's an awesome villain. He sucked as a villain. And he wasn't scary. Now I know what you're saying. Those kind of lack of emotion characters. Gus, for instance, is basically a lack of emotion character. Every now and then you see a finger twitch. But Gus is scary. Gus is scary. Lalo's not scary. And he got caught lacking in the end. He never had a chance. I didn't understand the hype. When he first showed up, I did reactions to Better Call Saul. He first showed up, everybody's hyping him up. I'm like, oh, okay, excellent, good. Yeah, and I just kept waiting for the awesomeness. It just never happened, man. He was all right. Like I said, and the actor is amazing. I love the actor so much. Everything I've seen him in since has just proved that he's a great actor, charismatic as hell. So that's why people like him. They don't like him for his objective actions. If you objectively look at his actions through the course of a couple seasons, man, he blows. So, anyway, that's not what we're talking about here. The lack of emotion, you're right. That's there. But here's my answer. It's the unpredictability. I'll never forget. There is this, what was it called? Burn Notice. There were 2 series-long villains in Burn Notice. They both knew Michael Weston personally, but they didn't know each other. And so in various episodes, one of them would come in and ruin his life, and the other one would come in and ruin his life. The first one was a Joker type agent of chaos. He would just come in and do crazy shit. You never knew what the hell he was going to do next. He would just anything. He'd just kill people off the top of his head and just random ass, and then it'll probably all work out. Let's just fly by the seat of our pants shit. He was a psycho, a mass murdering psychopath. And he was very funny and great. The actor was great and everything, and he was amazing. The actor and the character were amazing. But loose cannon, right? Complete agent of chaos. Then you had the other guy, the other villain. Like I said, they never really interacted. The actor was also amazing, and he was an amazing character. He was the chess master. He was always thinking 20 moves ahead. And he was always saying, and so he was always painting Michael Weston into a corner. It's like, okay, before I even talk to you, Michael, I've already anticipated this, and this. I've closed off all these avenues. I've already taken care of all these things. You can't go to this person. You can't use this legal option. You can't go down this road. I've closed off all your options. The only thing you can do is what I want you to do to serve me. I've already closed everything off before I ever approach you. He thinks of everything. Mastermind. He punked out Michael Weston like 3 or 4 times in the course of the series. Just always got the better of him because he's a mastermind thinking 20 moves ahead. Finally, near the end of the series, both of these characters are interacting at the same time. They both need something from Michael, so the 3 of them are working together. Loose cannon, Michael West, who's kind of like in the middle. He kind of does crazy shit, but he also thinks ahead. And then you have the chess master. And the chess master had set things up so if the loose cannon killed him, the police would immediately get this file about all of his activities and where he had been and where he was going and where his money was. And so he was really screwed because the chess master knew this loose cannon would definitely kill him. So he made it clear. If you shoot me within 20 minutes, every law enforcement agent in the country will have your information where you are and they will come get you. So you can't shoot me. He's thought ahead. He thinks of everything. So what happens? The loose cannon shoots him right in the head, kills him right on the spot. And Michael West said, "What the hell are you doing? You just heard what he said." He says, "Hey, what I heard is I got 20 minutes to figure this out." It's just, and he says, that man was so worried about thinking 20 moves ahead, he didn't think the 2 moves ahead. He forgot to think 2 moves ahead. And I don't remember how it all worked out. It's been years since I've seen the series. But he was a fly by the seat of his pants kind of guy, and he figured out that he assumed he could figure something out before the police would catch him. And so that's just how he thinks. So you got to factor that in. You can't just think 20 moves ahead. You have to think the next move ahead. So who's more scary? You would think the chess master would be more scary. Because, man, he boxes you in every time. He's thought of everything. There's nothing you can do. You have to be his bitch. If he wants you dead, you're just dead. There's nothing you can do. Because he's thought of everything. You don't have time. By the time he comes to you, you don't have time because he's taking all the time to think of everything. You have 2 minutes to think of something, and he's thought of everything. So you can't do shit. You would think he'd be the most scary. No. The most scary is a man who will do anything at any time. You don't know what the hell he's going to do. The unpredictability is scary. And I think, just generally speaking, crazy people, the reason why crazy people are scary is because they are unpredictable. We don't know what they're going to do next. They can be laying in bed with you, and next thing you know, you're on fire. That's what it is, right? Crazy. They're unpredictable. The unpredictableness, you don't know what they're going to do. They might bite your nose off. They might go stick a baseball bat up your mother. They might, shove a dog into a cat. You don't know what the hell they're going to do. They could do anything. They won't necessarily work in their own self-interest. Most people are predictable because they're going to work in their own self-interest. If you're in the middle of a food court in a crowded mall, which don't exist anymore, assume it does, in a crowded mall, and you both have a pistol in your pocket, and you both want to kill each other, you're not going to kill each other because you're caught in 4K. There's cameras everywhere. There's witnesses everywhere. It's, you got to run for 100 yards just to reach the door, and then there's a massive parking lot out there, and your car is halfway down. But after you shoot the person, it's going to take you 10 minutes to get to your car. You're caught in 4K, and you're probably caught by the police who are there at the mall, That is not the place to do it. If you have any sense of self-preservation whatsoever, that's not the place to kill somebody. So you can feel safe there because other people's behavior is predictable. They're not going to kill you just like you're not going to kill them. Because either one of you does the killing, the other one is busted and they're going to prison for the rest of their life if they're not going to get the death penalty. So you can't do anything because you have 1 ounce of self-preservation. Crazy person don't give a shit. They don't care, man. They're not thinking about tomorrow. They're not thinking about 10 minutes from now. They're thinking about giving you this L right now. That's all they care. Unpredictable. Are they going to do it or are they not going to do it? I don't know. I don't feel safe sitting there in the middle of a crowd with them. I do feel safe with the normal psychopath who thinks ahead. Unpredictability is what's terrifying in real life and in fiction. The most compelling victims are the unpredictable ones. So just like, you're sitting in a bus and somebody across the aisle from you starts looking around all crazy, like they think they see something on you, and they're just looking crazy and shit, you're going to move to the back. You're not going to keep sitting right next to them. Because that person's unpredictable. You don't know what the hell they're going to do next. You don't know if they think they're going to have a flashback to their father from 20 years ago and just start stroking, just start raising haymakers or pull out a weapon or something to set you on fire or whatever, pour acid in your face. You don't know what the hell they're going to do because they're crazy. But you get some kind of psycho, you look at them and you realize, wait a minute, I've seen them in the news. They've kidnapped 27 people just like me. I fit their profile. But we're in the middle of a crowded bus. They don't have wheels. They're not going to kidnap me here. I can just stay sitting here. Because if I move, maybe I will call attention to myself and I get on the radar. They may think I know them. I've noticed them, right? So I'm just going to sit here and chill. They're not going to do anything. I'll make sure I'm in a crowd when I get off and get the hell away from them, So you feel safe with a known psycho who is normal crazy, who thinks ahead and has gotten away with shit for years because so clearly they think ahead. They don't take crazy chances. You feel much more safer with that person than you do with this dude. Be like, I don't like what's in your hair. The hell's in my hair? I don't like what's in your hair. That person. You don't feel safe with that person because you don't know what the hell is the next thing they're going to say or do. That is scary. So, that's the character that terrifies me. And, it's really interesting because I only came up with 6 names for my list. I have a top 5 scary characters, and then I have honorary mention because I just haven't gotten far enough into that series. There's a lot of interesting characters. There's a lot of cool characters. Bad guys, whatever. And, here's an interesting thing. It just occurred to me now as I say this. There are no good guys on my list. There have to be some scary good guys out there, right? Just because you're a good guy. Well, for instance, the demon from Jujutsu Kaisen probably should have been on my list. I didn't think of that. I can put them in. I'll just put them as an honorable mention. I'm not doing the list till later, but I've already written it out. I'll put them as an honorable mention because that person, you don't know what the hell they're going to do. You don't know what the hell they're planning. They're definitely scary. They scare other demons. Another thing that makes a character really scary, that ups their ante in their scariness, is when scary people are scared of him. And you have other demons in Jujutsu Kaisen that are scary, and they're terrified of this guy. So if scary people are scared of you, then I'm scared of you. It's a good way to do a character. It's a good way to inject some fear from the audience into that character. Because if this scary person doesn't want to mess with you, I sure as hell don't want to mess with you. So there's that, right? But the good guy has a demon inside him, but that's still, he's a good guy. It's just a demon inside him. Eren is not a good guy. He's a villain from, Attack on Titan. I'm trying to think if there's any good person who's scary. Luffy's unpredictability makes him scary. He's unpredictable. He's a loose cannon. Probably a psycho. So, he's got that going on for him. So maybe he could be a scary character, right? Like, let me know if you think there are any good guys that I've missed that are scary. They're genuinely scary. Probably not because we're rooting for the good guys, so we don't go there with them. We don't think, oh God, I'm scared, right? We just don't think about that to them. So, probably not. but I'm still curious. Let's see if you can come up with somebody, because I can't think of anybody. But I haven't seen much anime horror, and I've heard most anime horror sucks. They just can't pull it off. You know, which is weird because The Ring was a terrifying movie. The Grudge was a terrifying movie. Now, I saw the American versions. I'm sure the Japanese versions are even better. So, I mean, the American version of The Ring actually scared me. That bitch coming out of that TV, man. That shit was scary. And then ticking clock. So, I don't know, man. I think that I don't understand why live action Japanese movies are good and Japanese anime are bad when everything else is reverse. Regular live action Japanese TV and movies is trash. Their anime is excellent. So why is horror reversed? Why does horror anime suck and Japanese live action doesn't suck? It's a good question. One more thing here. Recommend me a live action Japanese horror movie that's your favorite, because I want to react to one of those this month. We're up to October 13th. We have time. So put your recommendations in here, and I'll do one for the end of the month. I've already posted 3, for early access. Another reason to go to Tier 3, by the way, because Tier 2 has my early access. You can right now. I've got Sinners, The Conjuring, and Freaks of Nature movie reactions on early reaction. I'll be hitting YouTube in a couple weeks. I want to do some other horror movies. I've got, let's see, I'm probably going to do Five Nights at Freddy's. I've got Gerald's Game coming up. A couple other horror movies have been sponsored, and then I want to do this one, and then maybe one other horror movie, maybe Conjuring 2. I enjoyed The Conjuring so much, I might do The Conjuring 2 or something. But yeah, recommend a live action Japanese horror movie that you think is the best. If nobody recommends anything, I'll probably just do The Ring, the Japanese version of The Ring. It'd be interesting, since I have seen the American version. I still remember it fairly well. See how good the Japanese version is. But Japanese do goats very well. And I'm in the middle of Garden of Sinners, and that's a horror. Pretty much horror. It's horror action with some fantasy elements in it. But it's pretty damn scary. And they've got some great villains, and they do ghosts very well. So, that's been excellent. So, got that going on, but I'm disappointed that they don't have any good Japanese horror. I just tried a couple, and most people told me they're just not any good, which is too bad. If you do know of a good Japanese horror anime, obviously let me know. That goes beyond saying, right? All right, well, let's get to the hot take, and then I'll come back and I'll do the ranking of the scary characters. Now, this is going to be the unusual one, because I'm really talking to other reactors. I don't think there are any reactors who watch me. I watch a lot of other reactors, but I don't think there are any reaction channels who watch me. But, this is, in case anybody ever starts a reaction channel, in case any of these reactions ever come across my podcast, or maybe you could just take this message out into life and, apply it to other things. Because this has been on my mind for weeks now. It's just, over a month ago, I saw a Potato McWhiskey video, and he talked about it. Now, he says he has mental health issues. He says he has depression, and his life can be going great, and depression will just hit him, and he just doesn't even feel like getting on to bed. It's a very heartfelt video. I have nothing against the man. I think he's pretty cool. But basically, people were giving him a lot of shit about his Civilization 7 takes. Like, Civilization 7 objectively sucks. Across the board, almost everybody agrees, and he was like, yay, Civilization 7, it's awesome. Because the people who made the game have given him inside access. They flew him out there and let him, he was in their office. They fed him lunch. So the implication is, most people think it sucks. These people had him out there, they flew him out there, they fed him lunch, they let him play the game before anybody else could play it. And he's the one person saying that the game is good. So it looks like he's being paid, like he sold out. Like, he's being paid, so he's just going to lie and say the game is good. That's what it looks like. I don't believe that that's what's happening. But I think, if somebody pays you, you're going to be inclined to be a little softer. And I tend to not be a harsh critic of people, especially if they can see what I'm saying. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings or break anybody's spirit or anything. There's a way to navigate to get your criticism out there without being a dick about it. And a lot of people are being a dick about Civilization 7. But he was getting it in the comments every single video, whether it was a Civilization video or it was some other game. People were just tearing his ass up in the comments, and it got to him, and so he just stopped. There was a point where he stopped playing Civilization for like 6 months, just stopped playing it, and then he just stopped putting out videos altogether. Right, even though he was having sponsored videos that would do, and he just wasn't. But he couldn't get out of bed. He had depression anyway, and then the YouTube comments just got to him. Right. Then I mentioned this, I think, a year ago when Tail Foundry talked about he was going to stop reading the comments. He wasn't going to look at the YouTube comments anymore because people were being mean in the comments. So, I talked about that last year. Then I saw this Potato McWhiskey thing, and I thought, well, that sucks, but, mental health issues, depression, he's got more going on. He had just got married, but, he said he was in the best place in his life he'd ever been. He just got married, he had a new house, they were comfortable with money, and he was getting paid to do what he loved, which was playing games and doing game live streams and doing game videos and doing game reviews and stuff like that. And be able to talk to people who make games. It's the dream. He has his dream job. His personal life, it seems to be in a really good place. He's comfortable, yet he's depressed all the time. So that shows depression is not situational. Depression is chemical. It's psychological. It has nothing to do with it. You could be having the best time of your life and be depressed. Or you may have the worst time of your life and not be depressed, right? So it's not, depression is not situational. Sadness is situational. Depression is not situational. So I thought that there was more going on there than just YouTube comments. I was like, well, I kind of want to talk about it, but at the same time, I don't know if there's enough meat on that bone. I'd already talked about Tail Foundry, and this was a case where there's mitigating circumstances. Then, about a week ago, I was like, what the hell is going on with Ally Box? So I went back and looked at Ally Box's, she's a reaction, she does Buffy. Went back and looked at her channel, and she has not posted a YouTube video for 11 months. And she's been doing Buffy for years. Years and years and years, like 3 or 4 years, and she has not gotten through it yet. The last one she posted was episode 19 of season 6, right? 9 months ago. And so I started looking through the comments to see how people react to the fact she just vanished. Was she alive? And apparently she's still on Patreon, and she's still uploading videos to Patreon and everything. She apparently has given up on YouTube. And the stated reason over on Patreon, I haven't seen this myself, but what multiple people had said, the stated reason on Patreon that she gave was she just couldn't take the YouTube comments anymore. That what people were saying in the YouTube comments was so bad that she just couldn't post to YouTube anymore. And then there was a classic, well, just don't look at your comments. Well, I don't know how effective that is. I think personally, I think it's part of your job to look at the comments. And I have stopped watching people because they say they don't look at the comments. And I know the big channels, they can't look at all the comments. There's just too many. I've used the analogy before. A YouTube comment section is like opening up a door and there's a room with 100 people in the room. And all those people are talking at once. And you shout in your comment and then you close the door and leave. That's what a YouTube comment section is for a big channel. For people that have 1 million or more subscribers. Basically, nobody's going to see your comment. Not even other people who comment. Because there's so many goddamn comments. Jenny Nicholson said in a video she didn't watch comments. I kind of stopped watching her after that. She didn't read comments. And I was like, well, what the hell's the point? Like, if you don't give a shit about your fans and what they're saying, what's the point? It kind of demoralizes me. I don't, they probably don't read the comments. But when they outright say that they don't, I just find that annoying. I think it's your job to read the comments personally. That's why I always give a heart. I want people to know, like, if you bothered to leave a comment, then, I want you to at least know I've read it. Even if I don't have anything to say to it. And I also think you go to some of these channels and there are people who reply to every single comment no matter what it is. And I think that just cheapens the whole thing. Now I could reply to everything, but I only give a heart to the really good comments. But I think that's backwards. I think if I read a comment and a thought comes to my mind, I should say this. I'm going to say it. But if a thought doesn't come to my mind, I'm just like, okay, well, that's interesting. Then I'm just going to put a heart because I think it's just fake and forced to answer every single comment. It's just forced. There's no way you have something to say to everything everybody says. So you're just forcing it, and then it feels patronizing. But a heart just lets the person know you read it. So I don't think a heart is forced or fake. It's just here. I'm letting you know I read it. Return receipt requested, right? I'm just letting you know I read it. I think it's your job to read the comments because, like, the interaction, what it's all about. For you to put something out there and not give a shit what anybody says, anybody, then what you put it in a diary. Like, what is this for? If you literally don't give a shit what anybody thinks, anybody has to say. I don't know. It's just my personal opinion. But like I said, would I feel differently if I had 2 million subscribers and I was getting 3,000 comments per episode? I know I wouldn't be able to get through all that. So I would try. I'm never going to get to that point, so I'm not worried about it. But like, there probably is a number of comments where it'd reach a point where it'd be hard to keep up with it. But then maybe I would devote a half a day or something just to that. I don't know. I mean, but that's not really the point. The point is, now these are 3 different YouTube people, and I don't know why Neil Talks quit. It's a Primate just quit recently. And there's these people dropping, and I don't know. I think sometimes, we're talking about people that seem to really enjoy what they do, not people who try it for a few months and then quit, or they're not getting enough views, they're not making enough money or whatever. It's a Primate was a really good channel, a functional channel. He's putting a lot of shit out there, and he has a lot of subscribers, and I feel like he's probably making a decent amount of money. And same with Neil Talks. He was getting, I first saw him when he had like 1,000 subscribers, and he jumped way up really fast, right? So him, I think it was depression, and also he just is a working person in Hollywood. He does Hollywood work. He does Hollywood shows. And so if somebody offered him a ton of money to go to some other country and shoot for 6 months, and then by the time you're done doing that, your channel has just been defunct for 6 months, it would be really hard to get back into it. So he could be a separate category. I don't know what's going on with that. It's a Primate. But like, I wonder though, like, there's at least 3 examples I know for a fact from what they have said that they have let YouTube comments get to them. And I just can't understand that kind of mentality where you let what a person says get to you like that, to where it affects what you do, what you love. It takes away the joy of what you love. I don't understand that mentality. And it's easy for me to say, well, just don't give a shit what they think, and it's easy for me to say that, and that is my advice. But maybe I can like narrow it down a little bit more and frame it in a way where maybe you can see what I'm saying here, because I do care what people say. But I learned early on in life that and you can apply this to your own life too. I learned early on in life that when somebody doesn't like you, they're not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. They're not going to give you any grace. In fact, they're going to frame things in a way that the worst possible connotation towards you. When you don't like somebody, you're not on their side. You're not going to give them advice that's going to be beneficial to them. You're not giving them feedback that's beneficial to them. You're saying things to hurt them. You're saying things against them. Best possible scenario if you don't like somebody, you're just not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. If a situation is 50-50, you're going to assume the worst because you don't like them. If you do like somebody, the situation is 50-50, you'll assume the best. But when you don't like somebody, you're going to assume the worst. And just think about when you don't like somebody. Not when somebody doesn't like you. Think about when you don't like somebody, you're probably not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I always try to, because I'm aware of this situation, and I know that people don't give benefit of the doubt, but I don't. I don't like Tom Brady. I've never liked him, and just not just because I'm a Colts fan and he's a Patriots and he kicked my ass a lot of times, or my team's ass. There's something creepy about him and fake about him and just culty about him. And he reminds me, he's basically Tom Cruise for football. Same thing about Tom Cruise. The exact same things apply to Tom Cruise. Something creepy and culty and fake about him. Both of them. So I just don't like him. So if it came out that maybe he beat up somebody who was helpless, a woman or something, and there was no witnesses, and nobody knew for sure, so it's basically he said, she said, and maybe the person making the accusation also has a shady history, a criminal history, or whatever. So there's reasons to doubt what she says, or even just like a weak guy or whatever, just a weak person, and he beat him up. I'm going to assume he did it because I don't like him. I'm going to assume the worst, and I'm just saying that I would like to not do that. I'd like to reserve my judgment. But if that shit came out like that, and there's no evidence, And they could literally be lying just because they have a shady history. I'm still going to assume worse because I don't like them. That's what you do when you don't like somebody. So I learned from a very early age, we're talking about 6 years old, I learned when somebody doesn't like you, you're not getting the benefit of the doubt, you're not getting grace. They're going to say and do anything to make you feel bad, or at least be careless. They don't give a shit if you feel bad or not. They're not in your corner, they're not on your side, they don't have your back. So, if I know that somebody doesn't like me, everything they say means nothing, good, bad, or indifferent. Once I've established this person doesn't like me, their words have no effect on me whatsoever. Zero. Because they don't like me. So I'm not going to get the benefit of the doubt. Okay, we've established, okay, we have sides. I'm on this side, you're on that side, you're the enemy. And I'm not saying this in like a really paranoid kind of way, ooh, enemy, they want me to die, or, I'm not saying that. I'm not even saying like, ooh, they're enemies, so they have to be destroyed. I don't give a shit what happens to them. What I'm saying is, they're the enemy. They're on the side where it doesn't matter what comes out of their mouth. They could give me 50 compliments in a row. Once I've established they're not on my side, means nothing. Just like the negative shit means nothing. It just doesn't mean anything. Oh, okay, wait a minute. Okay, you've declared for the enemy. You've declared yourself against me. So it doesn't matter what you're saying, man. Because what you're saying is going to be derogatory. It's going to be negative. I'm not going to self-reflect. There's a guy who's been a hater in the UU videos recently. Consistently, everything's been derogatory. Like, he hasn't left a single comment that has been, and we're talking about almost a dozen videos now over the past month. So consistently watching, but never has anything good to say. It's always a shitty comment, right? And so some of the stuff has been less derogatory, less shitty, and more in the guise of, hey, here's some feedback so this you can make your videos better. But before that, had already established himself as somebody who doesn't like me, doesn't like anything about me. Everything's been a shitty comment, right? So I'm not going to take the feedback. Like, one of the feedback is I laugh too much in my videos, right? I'm not taking that feedback. If Ariel or Hunter Stone, somebody that has established themselves as somebody who likes me, or at least doesn't hate me, had the same feedback, I would give it weight. I would analyze it. Let me think about that. Maybe there's more I can do. Maybe not everything's funny. I don't know, because if I find shit funny, I'm going to laugh. I can't really police that, right? If it's funny, I'm laughing. But I would give it weight. I would sit there and contemplate that. But when somebody has established themselves as they don't like me, their feedback means nothing. Absolutely nothing. It just doesn't mean anything. It's not even like I turn a switch. It's like, oh, they don't like me. Okay. I can forget about that. All right, cool. I'll heart it, and I never think about it again. Other than the fact, okay, I recognize that name. That person doesn't like me. Okay, cool. Give it a heart, move on. So it doesn't have any impact on me. There's no emotional weight of, oh my God, here's another comment from this asshole. Man, I was having a good day too. It just doesn't mean anything to me. Yeah, I'm not one of these, he's such a tough guy. He doesn't care about people's opinions. I care about people's opinions. But I also am an observer of human nature. And human nature is such that when somebody doesn't like you, nothing good's going to come out of their mouth about you or to you. Nothing. That has never happened. Even if it is something good, they're trying to get something out of you. So all of it can be ignored. And so rather than using the cliche advice, hey, just don't let it bother you, maybe this is helpful. Maybe you can think about it in a way, okay, wait a minute. Yeah, like when people don't like me, or when people don't like other people, or when I don't like people, I'm not giving them benefit of doubt. I'm not coming from a good faith place. I'm not making an actual observation I actually believe. I'm just trying to hurt this person. I'm just saying shit because I don't like them. So maybe that can help you. And with this, you could easily take this to the workplace. Say there's somebody in your workplace who always has a shitty thing to say about you or to you. And it bothers you. And it annoys you. Think about it like this and bring this to that. Just be like, wait a minute. This person doesn't like me, so I'm never going to get a fair shake from these assholes. Never. It's never going to happen. So they're irrelevant. They might as well not even exist. They're basically dead to me. They don't matter. If they're not on their side, they don't matter. They're irrelevant. Nothing they say should have any impact on you, positive or negative. If somebody doesn't like me, gives me a compliment, that means jack shit. It means nothing to me. They're probably just trying to manipulate me. So, and there have been people, there have been like, semi regular commenters over the years that early on they had said a couple shitty things, and I'm like, okay, well, this person clearly doesn't like me. And then they'll show up every now and then and they'll leave a comment. And maybe they haven't said anything shitty in 2 or 3 years, but they said that shitty thing that I still remember. So it still means nothing to me. You just got to establish what you think where a person is coming from. Yeah. So I wish that I could talk to Ali Box, and I wish I could talk to Potato McWhiskey and Tail Foundry and some of these other people. If anybody else has been going through this and are just this is what they love to do. There is a way to get them to think about this. Because for me, it's just so easy. It's so, because of my childhood. Like, I went through a very specific childhood where just relentlessly, like I said earlier, mercilessly mocked and derogatory comments and everything twisted in the most negative way possible. Whatever, if there was a possible way you could interpret something negatively, they're going to do it. Constantly, nonstop, within the sanctity of the home and in school, and even people that I thought were my friends. And it was just indoctrinated into me. Okay, well, I'm not going to get a fair shake, so it doesn't matter what the hell they say. You've lost your privileges to give me feedback because clearly you don't like me. So, and eventually, I don't know about YouTube comments, they can't really see whether or not this having an effect on me. But in, physical space, like in an office place or something like that, eventually they'll realize they say this shitty stuff and you just keep moving on, you keep laughing, you keep enjoying your day because that came from somebody who doesn't matter. They eventually move on. They eventually leave you alone. It's like, well, because you're not going to just keep putting effort into something and getting nothing out of it. It demoralizes them at some point and they just move on. There's nothing that cures somebody having an axe to grind with you like you just not giving a shit. You just don't care, man. People who have an axe to grind love it when you get an axe to grind back to them. Now we got a conflict. Now we got drama. Now we have a nemesis. This is a rivalry. We can't stand each other, right? But it's kind of like if we could use a football analogy, It's not a football rivalry if one team is always winning. The only way it's a football rivalry is if both teams win. Especially winning in the playoffs. If, for a while there, the Patriots are always beating the Colts. They were sending the Colts home in the playoffs. So it wasn't a rivalry. It wasn't a rivalry until the Colts sent the Patriots home. Get your ass home. We're staying in place. We're playing next week. You're going to be sitting on your goddamn couch, bitch. That's when it becomes a rivalry. When both sides win. When both sides are in it. When both sides are angry and engaged. If one side doesn't give a shit, which is typically what happens if one side always wins, it's not a rivalry. Maybe it's a rivalry to the loser, but it's not a rivalry to the winner because every time they see you, they beat your skull in. They stomp you out. It's not a big deal, man. They're not afraid of you. They're not mad at you. They feel nothing for you because they just keep stomping you out and moving on. It's not a rivalry. It has to be both sides, right? So if we're talking about office space or even if you're in school or something, I don't think this happens in college because people are there's just too much work to be antagonistic and bullying people in college. Plus, the losers who typically bully, they don't make it to college. So college may be different, but it happens again in the workplace because some people, losers will be in the workplace, right? Anybody can be in a workplace. So just take that approach. This is my advice. And so this is the hot take segment. My hot take is, who gives a shit what people who don't like you say? Who gives a shit? Who cares? I sure as hell don't care, and you shouldn't care either. And I hate that things like this are, see, most people have another angle. They blame the commenters. Oh, well, people didn't leave shitty comments, Alley Box will still be around. Yeah, I guess, but that's a fantasy world. People are gonna leave shitty comments. This is what people do. There are shitty people in this world. There are people who, maybe they have a legitimate axe to grind against her. I don't know how she's treated people over the years. I don't know. And some people are frustrated. It took her so long. Basically, one video. Buffy has 7 seasons. 6 of those seasons, I think, were 22 episodes, and then one of them was 12. So whatever number of episodes that is. And then Angel has 5 seasons of 22 episodes. So that's what 108, something like that. And so you reach a point after the end of season 3 of Buffy where you alternate. You know, you're watching both shows at once. If you're only watching one episode a month, it's going to be a decade before you finish both series. People get frustrated with that kind of upload time. But for me, rather than leave a shitty comment about it, I'm just going to go watch somebody else. You know, Tyler Alexander is kind of wearing me out with this because it's just one episode a week, 4 episodes a month, and given the fact he's going back and forth between Buffy and Angel, and some of those early episodes of Angel suck, so I skip them. You know, I might just have to pull back for a while and come back after a couple months and binge it or something. Because I binged to catch up to him. And then, you know, now it's once a week. So I understand. And look, that's why I understand when I'm late uploading stuff. That's frustrating, especially like with JoJo. It's been really bad with JoJo lately. But it was, I had taken a break. I came back and then the views and comments had just gone down to almost nothing. So that was just demoralizing. And, you know, so I was like, well, what the hell am I busting my ass to try to fit this in if nobody's going to watch it anyway? So I think I'd lost my audience with the original hiatus. I get it. But I'm going to still, I'm coming back to it. But what I'm saying is I understand that people can be frustrated because I feel that frustration for other reactors. But rather than me leave a shitty comment, I'm just going to go watch somebody else. That's my response. But I understand other people get frustrated and they want to leave a comment. And that's fine. They can do whatever they want. But I don't think you can blame the commenters because there's always going to be shitty people in the world. Like, if you're waiting for a world where there's no shitty people who say shitty things, man, you better find the next world because it ain't this one. So since that's the reality of the situation, you can't change them. Change yourself. Change the way you look at it. Make it so they can be as shitty as they want. It just doesn't matter, you know. So I don't know. Unsolicited life advice. But this is something that's been on my mind for weeks, and I just wanted to put it somewhere. Alley Box will never see it. Potato McWhissy will sure as hell never see it. He's got a huge channel. Nobody's going to see this. But that's in this field, probably. But I still want to put it out there. Because I just think that there are definitely things in life that make me miserable. But it's not people I don't like because they just don't matter, man. That's just, at the end of the day, that's what it is. You know, I'm much more upset when they forget the fries on my to-go bag. I'm more traumatized by that than anything anybody has ever said to me in a YouTube comment and ever will say to me. You know, somebody comes in with some hate speech or something, they'll just get deleted and blocked, and then that's it. So, you know, that's not going to bother me either. It's just they'll never be able to come back. But so there's nothing they can say. There's nothing anybody can say that would bother me. You know, it would just if it's somebody, if it's earnest, well-meaning, good feedback, if it's earnest, well-meaning, good faith feedback from somebody who I know either likes me or is neutral to me and doesn't actively hate me, I'll take it to heart. But then that's not going to have a deleterious effect on my emotions because I know where it's coming from. It's coming from a good place. So people have had tons of feedback. Plenty of people have had feedback about, well, you should do this and you should do that. You know, Andy and Hunter Stone and Eric and there's definitely been people who have gotten in my face. Hey, this is a better way to do this. Hey, you should do this. Hey, you're really slow in the movies, for instance, or something. You know, and I know it's true and I know where they're coming from, so I take it to heart and I make a harder effort. I mean, I can only do what I can do, but you know, that's not going to make me feel bad either. But because that's in good faith. So it really is a catch-22 against those people. Because if it's in good faith, it's not going to make me feel bad. If it's in bad faith, I don't give a shit. So there's nothing they can say. I just wish more people had that mindset. Maybe it'd be a slightly happier world. Or at least we'd get more content from some of these people. All right, well, that's my hot take. Now, as I talked about before, the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to rank the scariest characters I've ever had. Rather, I'm going to take a week off from ranking anime. I'm going to rank the scariest characters we've ever had, that I've ever seen. Honorable mention will be that I talked about the Jujutsu Kaisen dude, whatever the demon's name is, Salvatore or whatever. I don't remember. He's an honorable mention. And the honorable mention I'd written down was the Demon Slayer King Demon. if you expected me to remember his name, you're in the wrong damn podcast. But I've just been introduced to him. I've watched up through episode 8 of Demon Slayer. And he's the dude that can turn people into demons. He's the only one that can do it, supposedly. We'll find out more as we move along, I'm sure. But that dude's pretty scary because he's a demon, but... And remember, I've only seen up to episode 8. But he's a demon, but he has a human family. So you got this nasty-ass human woman trafficking and consorting with a demon, getting smashed by a demon because they have a baby together. They have a filthy, disgusting half-breed baby that she had with this demon king. She's having sex with this filthy, disgusting demon. So she's got to go too. Like she's gone dark side, right? But I mean, she doesn't know he's a demon. I don't know how she doesn't know because he's got demon eyes, but supposedly she doesn't know. I think she does. We'll see. But he's got the quiet voice. He plays the human. I'm just a human, this helpless, defenseless human role really well. He's got the soft voice. Oh man, yeah. And he doesn't shout. He doesn't have a nasty voice. He's not angry. He's just, why do you think I'm bad? Like, I'm just a family man. Look at my wife and look at my kid. And I can't even do the soft voice. He's got soft voice, right? It's just no bass in his voice whatsoever. He does really good at playing the role, and it's kind of creepy, man. It sends a chill up my spine because this dude, he plays the role really well. His camouflage is excellent, and that's creepy. I want my creepiness like I want my food obvious, right? I want it to be obvious that you're creepy, not secret creepy. Secret creepy is the worst, man. You've known this person for a long time, all of a sudden the creepiness comes out. What the hell? What the hell did you just say? Damn, dude. I want my creepiness obvious. So, creepy as hell. And I think that's another thing they do with him, which is another writing trick you can do. Talked about how you can have people be afraid of them. People also have the demons have a huge amount of respect for this man. Like he says something, they jump, they immediately leap into action. He summons them, they're immediately there. They don't question his orders. Nothing makes a leader look weaker than the minions questioning the orders, which happens a lot in all entertainment, not just anime. It just makes them look weak. Here, none of his minions question jack shit. He says something, they do it. He says jump, they say how high. That's it. That's the only question they got, how high. Most of the time they don't even ask that. They just jump. Hopefully that's high enough. That's how you can make a character intimidating, is when his minions have so much respect for him, they don't even consider, it never crosses their mind to contradict him or to question what he says or orders. They just do it, right? Without question. So that's creepy. All right, number 5 on the list. We're going from 5 to 1. Dio from JoJo. I almost didn't want to do this one because I think some people, I didn't see it in the comments, but somebody mentioned somewhere Dio being scary. Maybe it was in a conversation. It could have been my godson. I can't remember. But somebody mentioned Dio. And I hadn't really thought about Dio in that context. But then it's like I started thinking about, Dio's pretty intimidating. He has a large number of minions, which is intimidating. People will do anything for him. They will risk their lives. And most of them won't betray him. A couple did. But most of them won't because they're terrified of him. So they're subservient. They don't question him. And then he himself is just so arrogant. And the fact that he came back at all is pretty impressive. And just where he started and the whole preponderance of his arc and all this stuff is just... Dude's pretty scary. And thinks nothing of just obliterating any of his enemies. Just massacring them. He's not going to do the Batman gambit where he sets the trap and then leaves the room and hopes it works. Like he's going to try to carry it out. He's just going to try to take you out. He's not going to screw around for the most part. Now, his biggest problem was he played with his food a little bit. That's how he got taken out. Spoiler alert. But everybody's got a weakness. But he's pretty intimidating. They did a good job with him. I would say more intimidating than scary. But those words go hand in hand. But so you know what I mean. He's a decent villain. All right, number 4 is just because it's a relatable person. Most of these, we can't relate to Dio. We can't relate to Demon Slayer King or Demon from Jujutsu Kaisen. This is the first villain we can relate to, and that makes him scary because we've all encountered somebody like this. And I'm talking about the prison warden in Boruto. I don't remember the episode numbers, but there was about a 5 or 6 episode arc where our characters were undercover in prison, and this prison warden was just the world's biggest asshole. Power hungry, sadistic. You know, he's kind of a large man, so that added to the effect, but then he's that kind of person. He has power over you. He's the worst person ever. Kind of a bitch if he doesn't have power over you, but that just made him more relatable, right? So the reason he's 4 on this list, even above Dio, is because we could meet somebody like this. We could see somebody that's in real life, and they are scary in real life. If they have power over you, and it's this kind of a person, that shit is scary, man. You know, we don't want that action. We don't, it's, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's just, they're the worst people to ever have power over you. Because you have other kinds of people that are bad for having power, but they're like petty tyrants, rule abiders. You were 2 minutes late, I'm docking your pay. I'm going to put you next to this person I know you don't like because you're mean to me. You know, you talk back to me and all that shit. Those people suck. There are bosses who suck. There are people who have power over you who suck. But how many of them are sadistic assholes who enjoy inflicting pain? Those are the kind of people we run into them every now and then. If you have 10 jobs, they're probably in 2 of them. Or some other situation where that power, like a cop stops you for a ticket. Could be one of these people. They just enjoy playing with you and making you feel bad and, scaring you and all this other shit. So, that's why he's here, because he's a relatable villain. So more than anything else. All right, Makima from Chainsaw Man is number 3. And she is more in the category of, you don't know what the hell she's going to do next. We don't know what her motivations are. We don't know what her backstory is. She has a creepy voice. She has a creepy demeanor. But most importantly, we don't know what the hell she's going to do from moment to moment. Now, she's very calculated. We're just not clued into those calculations. She's kind of like Littlefinger in that way, right? Littlefinger's scary. We don't know what he's going to do next, but not because he hasn't thought of what he's going to do next. Now, the crazy people I was talking about, they haven't thought of what they're going to do next. But in this particular case, she has, and she knows what she's going to do next. Just we don't know what she's going to do next. So that can be scary, right? So that's why I find her scary, and she has a great voice. Are they ever going to do another effing season? Maybe it's going to be a movie. I don't know, man. Like, what the hell is going on with modern anime? It's become live-action American TV where it takes 3 years between seasons. What the hell are we doing? Why are you taking so long? They used to be producing this shit every week, man. Now again, like just what they were producing 24 episodes of Lost, which is high-quality TV. Now it takes them 3 years to produce 8 episodes. Fallout, Peacemaker, Last of Us, Silo, Severance. Like, it takes you 3 years to do 8 to 10 episodes? Bullshit. What's happening with Chainsaw Man? I don't know. But this isn't me ranking what pisses me off, so we'll move on. Number 2, Attack on Titan asshole. Now, you might be thinking, Aaron, no. There was a particular guard. He may have just been a guard. He may have been a general, I can't remember, but I think it's in season 3. When he escorts a couple people over to turn them into Titans or something. So he escorts them over, and then he starts talking shit, and he has no empathy whatsoever. And he's talking about how they're going to get eaten, and how he enjoys watching or something. And that dude was terrifying. He's another one of these petty tyrants like the Boruto prison warden. And he ends up getting killed in that same episode, which is very satisfying. He was only in 1 episode. But that dude was scary. And think about all the years that he was doing this shit where people didn't get him killed. And it's just this person was walking around, and he took such pleasure in beating people up and just sadistic pleasure in his little tiny amount of power. See, anybody can be scared of the person in charge of the army because they have all this shit at their disposal. They can do this, and they can get you with this, and they can do that, and get you with that and that. The petty tyrant may be even more scary because it's you and them and an empty road. You're in their car. They can pull that car over because you're handcuffed in the back of their car, right? And they're driving along. It's a completely empty road. They can pull that car over and do whatever the hell they want to you. Anything vile, anything disgusting, anything mean, anything violent, anything sadistic. Whatever the hell they want you to do. it's scary, man. You know, you're in the hands of a person. There's nobody there. There's nobody to stop them. They won't get any repercussions even if you tell somebody later, assuming you survive the experience. And you're confined, and they have complete power over you. That is terrifying. That's scary on a very deep, visceral, relatable level. F this dude, man. I still feel strong. It's been years since I've seen this, at least one, maybe two, since I saw that episode. I'm still pissed and scared because he's an intimidating dude. So that's the most random thing. Nobody would ever believe that this would be on the board, right? But basically, he's a stand-in for any character who's like that. They have a little bit of temporary power over you, but man, for that amount of time that they have that temporary power over you, it's a terrifying experience. They suck. And finally, this one you never guess either. Grandpa from Fate Stay Night. You know, there's this old man who's in charge of one of the families. He is the effing worst. Not only is he a horrible person, not only is he a sadistic asshole that tortures people in his own family for his own gain for years. He's got like worms eating his granddaughter for years. Just she's in pain for years to serve magic, whatever, right? Like just completely violating her body with these disgusting creatures, causing infinite amount of pain to her over a long period of time so that he can get some magic from it. But he's also made of those worms, right? Like, you know, so he's evil, he's nasty, he's sadistic, he has no empathy whatsoever, but also he's almost impossible to kill because he can just go into a cloud of worms and disappear and just come back and, you know, you do damage to him and he just reforms his arm with more worms. Almost impossible to kill. Great voiceover actor, whoever's doing that for him. Great character design. He wasn't in that many scenes, but every single scene he was in, he was terrifying. There's a lot of scary people in that franchise, and he was the scariest. And he's one of the scariest characters I've ever seen, you know, in anime. But like I said, I haven't been watching, you know, a lot of this horror anime, and I want to. So hook me up, man. Hook me up. There's got to be a horror anime out there that's any good. Let me know. Maybe I can fit it in this month. Also, let me know about the live action horror movie, Japanese horror movie. Definitely want to see that. And guess we'll get started and think about the next podcast. That will also take place, let's see, it'll be 2 days before Halloween. So it's going to be all horror. I'm going to try to think of 4 horror-themed topics. If you think of anything over the next couple of days, put it in here. A horror-themed topic. What else can we do? What's the scariest anime movie, maybe? Or what are the scariest powers? I would really like to see what are the scariest protagonists that we're supposed to like this person, but they're actually scary. I don't know if Eren qualifies. He's so bad. But some of these other people, they have a lot of power. I mean, Gon from Hunter could possibly be one of them, right? They have a lot of power, but they're either too young to know how to use it correctly, or they're misguided, easily influenced, or just the power itself is horrible. If a character has a power to control time, that's terrifying because they're going to mess up your world just for their own selfish reasons. Or if a character is invisible, there's all kinds of ways it can violate people, right? Like just their privacy, shit like that. That can be scary. So I'm going to think of some horror-themed topics for the next podcast. That's going to be my special Halloween podcast because it'll come out 2 days before that Halloween. So that should be fun. Until then, let's stay scared, shall we?